Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and I'm working on a video right now where I'm talking about GTA and everything, and specifically the older games. I'm actually going through like a nostalgic fest. I actually have a few ideas in my mind that are not escaping me, so unless I sit down and make videos on them, I'm actually going to go insane. Now, in the middle of this, I've been doing something for that video where I've basically been, capturing a bunch of things, commentating on a bunch of things, recording a bunch of things, looking over some old websites, and actually, what's really driving me insane, by the way, is trying to make a retro-emulated gaming computer, okay? Let me tell you something about Windows 98. In fact, it drives me so insane, you're gonna get a whole video now about how to install Windows 98 and play video games on it, because if I had to go through the madness, everyone else will do. And I'll tell you right now, if anybody ever writes in the comment section, have you tried running it as administrator? I swear to, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna pop something. But anyways, I wanted to talk about something that, really just hit me right in the feels. Now, obviously, to make YouTube videos, it takes a lot of time. One of my favorite videos that I ever made was Did This Cult Infiltrate and Break 4chan? Where I talked about the synchronicity, experiments that were going on 4chan. It is a 50-minute long video. Now, this video was scripted before I had my appendix blow up on me. And once I got that surgery and I came back, I was like, this is what I'm actually crafting and making. This was my return video. Now, to understand, it takes time to make content, okay? To script it out, to source things out, to create it. A 50-minute video will take you like somewhere around 20, maybe 25 hours of, proper content to do it, if you're like truly efficient. When you're doing like crypto investigations, triple the time on that one. So obviously, 75 hours put into it for a 50-minute video that may make you, whatever amounts of revenue you can. This, I remember, was actually demonetized because I put 4chan into the title, but at some point I just don't really care too much about like the monetization aspect, because money is not important to me as much as making a banger YouTube video is. Now, sometimes in recent memories, okay, I've started to notice a resurgence of reaction channel nonsense. Now, again, I'm not coming at this from like some weird hate stance, if you will. I'm going to be talking about some people who I consider myself to be good friends, people that I respect, people that I look up to. But, I think that's what allows us to criticize and talk about each other when we see something a little bit, not cool, if we will. Now, to understand, okay, reaction meta on Twitch is massive, okay? It's a lot easier to load up a stream for 12 hours a day, 13, 14, 15, how many hours you need, and then effectively just react to shit, okay? All you have to do is put on a YouTube video, react to it, and statistically, you will retain viewership over a several, course of hours that you're streaming. Now, of course, if you're streaming and you spend 12 hours playing video games like GTA role-playing or like Rainbow Six Siege, or something that requires you to put in 100% more energy than you would ever have to do just sitting back watching a YouTube video, that obviously takes way more effort, I would say, all right? Like, streaming already is kind of a lazy venture, in my opinion, because, hey, it's easy for me to fire up OBS, hit start streaming, and just entertain for hours on end. It's actually more economically viable. I don't like doing it because I still have a liking for making proper traditional YouTube content. I think I like making good banger videos and calling it a day. At least that's how it works for me. I treat YouTube very much like a personal diary, very much like a shit post for me, and I just post whatever I like to do. The randomness is always something that I appreciate. Now, of course, getting back to the topic over here, when it comes to, streaming, obviously it's an easy endeavor, but it becomes even easier when all you have to do is slip on somebody else's YouTube video, watch it, and do whatever you can. Now, of course, I'm not so bent out of it when somebody on Twitch watches a video from a YouTuber, whether it be me or one of my peers, and, that's all it is. The story ends over there. I think that idea of cross-site promotion is actually pretty cool, okay? There's a lot of people on Twitch that would draw eyes that would probably never touch YouTube to potentially try YouTube for once, watching somebody's content. Where I start to get like a little weirded out is when like the Twitch channels will then all of a sudden not only stream the entire video, raking in massive profits from subs and whatnot over on Twitch, and then re-upload it on an official YouTube channel run by them or a team, and then double dip into the situation. Now, it's not even the revenue that wilds me out too much about that too. It's really what the effect on the YouTube algorithm ends up being. Now, DarkViper, okay, a prominent figure, you know, somebody that I've had like a little run-in with the past over. We had a little disagreement, but DarkViper is a really good content creator. He creates a lot of good GTA 5 content, and in the last few weeks, what really inspired me to touch this topic, again, this is just a primer video, by the way, but he made a video, like a series of videos where he was reacting to all the takes that various Twitch streamers had about him, specifically when it came to him writing a 14-page document about Twitch reactions. Now, of course, DarkViper was a little heavy-handed in criticism, used a lot of extreme examples, one of them regarding consent and whatnot. But, you know, at the end of the day, when I read his document, I almost sat down and just said, where's the lie? DarkViper is not wrong. When people on Twitch react to a video and then just re-upload it onto YouTube, it will kill the growth of any small channel. Now, there are exceptions, okay? There are plenty of channels that do gain benefits from having some level of, you know, shout out from various Twitch communities. I think SunnyV2 is a pretty decent example, but I also think SunnyV2 was growing long before he was ever shot in by Twitch, you know, shout outs. And a lot of it was him creating actual content that people would search. I would search 90% of the videos SunnyV2 makes. And I think that's the mark of a good YouTube channel, when you can cover things succinctly, properly, and send them out to people that would watch them, right? I think that's a big aspect of it. I'm not talking about necessarily every form of reaction content on YouTube. Obviously, people create reaction videos in different standards. I think one of my golden standards of React content is probably the original H3 videos, in terms of let's take an actual, you know, video, let's show pieces of it, and then let's fill it up with a lot of our own commentary and a lot of our own skits. I think that's a definition of proper transformative content, quite literally as it's one in a court case. But in a lot of cases, when it's literally somebody watching an entire video on YouTube, that becomes a pretty good standard for a market substitute. What people don't understand about fair use law, which is, you know, coming out of like a copyright law from like the 70s, which I think is absurd, by the way, for it to stand in the test of time for new missions of like new mediums of transmission. But the general idea is, even when it comes to fair use, you could technically show an entire video. But are you a market substitute? If so, well, then it's not really fair use. Are you critiquing the whole video? Are you criticizing it? Are you using it to make points? Are there moments of your video where it's completely dead air? If you have to ask yourself the question, have I done enough fair use? You probably haven't done enough fair use. When it comes to anything on YouTube, I think for people who are primarily YouTubers who make content, specifically commentary or edited content, the amount of clips that we use and the amount that we show, we have to really judge and properly give the right amount of context and the right amount of commentary. Otherwise, even if we use like a second or two wrong in our YouTube videos, we open ourselves up to a fair use issue. So again, it's kind of wild that on YouTube, literally entire videos can be hijacked, then completely re-uploaded. And there's not an issue of DMCA happening. There's not even like a problem with anything. Like, this is not fair use. If the commentary or your reaction is an entire re-upload of somebody's video, you've created a market substitute, and it would be really difficult for you to argue actual fair use. 2 weeks ago, I made this one video where I talked about just $160 million NFT disasters. The whole like Otherverse NFT stuff, where like 160 million bucks were burnt in Ethereum. Of course, underneath it, Asmongold reacted to it, basically taking the title of the video and just also hijacking the search algorithms of this. Now, of course, I don't mind too much. Being a larger channel myself, I can weather the storm, and my videos always usually are the #1 viewed on that topic, even amongst any reaction out there. But of course, where it starts to get a little hazier is when you have smaller channels who basically rely on YouTube growth to make anything going forward. For a lot of people who have over 1 million subscribers, you can weather the storm pretty easily, because the way that YouTube's algorithm is mostly centered around is the idea of watch time. If you make longer videos, like 15 minutes, 20-minute videos, maybe hour-long videos, sometimes I go that far, what will happen is you'll build an insane amount of watch time. The more watch time you have, the more YouTube is likely of recommending you in the algorithm. So, of course, when you're a larger channel and you may get a reaction to your video here and there, it's not going to hurt you as much as it hurts somebody with, say, 50,000 subscribers that's consistently trying to make absolute banger content. The problem with that person's growth is when all of a sudden their videos have been basically reacted to, and now YouTube's entire search algorithm is filled with their video and various other reactions, which sometimes, because of the reactor size, may actually outrank their own video. All of a sudden their growth diminishes. Now, of course, if you're a smaller creator and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I feel great that a larger creator is reacting to me, right? In a lot of senses, it's cool, right? It's a cool thing to see, being acknowledged by the upper echelon of, you know, the community. subsidies. But it's one thing to do that, and it's another thing to understand when you've actually been taken advantage of in the system, and all of a sudden your channel health and longevity is put at risk by somebody who basically has taken your content and instead of working that day, just reacted to it, re-uploaded it within the hour, and fucking washed their hands and wiped away. That's pretty much what it gets down to. Now, I used Asmongold as one of the reactors in this initially, and I just want to say to start off with, Asmongold's video is 39 minutes in length compared to my 17-minute video. This actually will showcase that Asmongold has put a considerable amount of commentary into the entire video. But when it comes to the idea of fair use, we have to talk about market substitutions, because there's 4 pillars when it comes to this kind of stuff, and one of them is the amount and substantiality that it's actually used. In this case law from the University of Miami Law School, we actually look directly into this paragraph that actually really speaks about how much you can and cannot use in fair use. So again, when we're talking about market subsidies, when you basically take somebody's entire piece of content, it's very difficult to prove any form of fair use in a court law. But even if you use very little, this is an interesting excerpt you should read. However, the orthodox gloss is not always reliable. To predict case outcomes accurately, the analysis must focus on the likelihood of substitution when evaluating the amount copied. By focusing merely on the amount copied, the usual understanding of the third factor fails to account adequately for many of the case holdings. In Iowa State, for instance, the defendant telecast only 2.5 minutes of the plaintiff's 28-minute film. The defendant claimed that the amount copied was quantitatively insignificant. The court's implicit reasoning, however, was that since the defendant's secondary use could substitute for the sale of the plaintiff's film, the secondary use infringed. The Supreme Court has applied an analysis similar to the Iowa State analysis of the third factor. For instance, in Harper and Rowe, the court denied the defendant's fair use claim, although the amount copied was quantitatively insignificant, quoting a mere 300 words, from the plaintiff's large book. Very small, the defendant published its own version of President Gerald Ford's memoirs. Despite the minimal copying, the Supreme Court held against the defendant, stating that the qualitative importance of the material taken must also be considered. The courts noted that the defendant copied what was essentially the heart of the original work. So even if you use very, very little, if you copy what is the heart of the original work, basically some could consider it the, meat of the original product, basically the one reason people would watch the original video, you would basically be infringing. So again, it's very dependent, and lawyers are paid big bucks to look at this very specifically. Now, obviously, this is an incredibly beneficial practice for Asmongold, as frankly, in a matter of a few hours, he can upload 50-minute, 47-minute videos that absolutely do well in the watch time, literally all about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, which is all the rage in terms of Twitch streamers and some YouTubers right now. I'm not really that much of an expert on it. I'm just using this necessarily as an example for what is the reaction stuff. I do think it's a little different, however, reacting to court stuff, simply because I don't believe there's a copyright domain on that, so this is well within the rights. But of course, when it comes to a YouTuber, things start to change because YouTubers are not big, giant media organizations that have a lot of money to deal with in the first place. A lot of it can be a losing game, especially if you're a newer person at the start. And when you're being aped on the algorithm by somebody far larger than you, that's probably the one thing that may not make you succeed in the long term. And obviously, the lazy content is definitely very rewarded on YouTube, as Asmongold's up there with like 91 million views for the last 30 days. Obviously, this is incredibly beneficial to be on the platform in this case. The YouTube algorithm seems to reward this level of, I guess you could say lazier content. Even people like XQC, who absolutely uploads a lot of content regarding GTA roleplay, plays games as well, spend several hours reacting to stuff, and sometimes re-uploads it onto his channel. Now, before anybody brings me that super weird take of, hey, but if this streamer has to stream for 12 hours, I'm streaming for 11 hours a day, right? Therefore, if I'm doing 11 hours of playing a video game, don't I get an hour to just watch some video, wind down? No, it's not the purge, bro, okay? Just because you've lived a lawful life for the entire year doesn't mean you get a whole day to commit whatever crime you want. That doesn't make any sense, okay? I would love to see that brought up in a court, by the way, too. And also, just as a wild shock, if you as a streamer, and I understand for a streamer, having as many hours as you can is basically your ticket to growth, your one ticket, then if you don't have the content to stream or the energy to stream without basically leaving a video on and walking away, maybe, and here's a real wild, shocking take, maybe stream less. I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking too much. Maybe it's a real hot take on this one, but I don't know. Now, this is a little less egregious to me because what XQC will do is not straight up steal the title like Asmongold had done in the original reaction stuff too, but he'll upload stuff like Stunned by Daily Dose of Internet. Now, Daily Dose of Internet is a very large creator who uploads, videos that are 2 minutes long. People watch it, it's a daily dose of the internet. Now, of course, in this video, when you get into direct market substitutes, the idea of putting your webcam in the corner and just having like the entire video basically play, this, my friends, would be a direct market substitute. Now, I don't know whether to be shocked or stunned by these videos, so I'm going to click one randomly, and we're going to compare it to like Jinx, somebody that was, was directly called out for doing this kind of stuff. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we directly called out Jinx here on the right years ago when this was happening, but now that it's researched with, people like XQC on the left, there's a few people that are staying quiet. But I might ask you, ladies and gentlemen, what's the difference? Like I said in the beginning of the video, I really have no ill will against anybody here. Look, I'm friendly with a lot of these people. I'm on good terms with them. But this is something that I've noticed for several months on YouTube. It's something that's been hitting my recommendations like crazy. And one of the only things that I can do is when you see it on your homepage, the only thing you can ever take care of is basically like going onto the actual channel, clicking those 3 buttons and hitting don't recommend. It's about the only thing that I can say for anybody that primarily has become some sort of a reaction Andy on the internet. Because yes, this space is finite. People's time is finite, okay? And if you're somebody whose videos is getting constantly reacted to and you're pushed out of the algorithm, but people are watching your videos, even if it's by proxy, that will ultimately harm you in the long run. I think when people hear the word exposure, they think, wow, I'm going to get a lot of benefit out of just a reaction. And it's oftentimes like a hit or miss depending on how good it does. I will say most of the times it does not do very well. If a video of mine gets reacted to, I very minimally see the tiniest of spikes on a video analytic. And you can actually see the same thing with creators like JXC, whose video is reacted to where they got like a whopping, I think like 100 views, period, on their channel, like just in a time frame. But even beyond that, sure, while this is depending on, there's many factors that go into it, exposure ultimately is not going to pay the bills. You can't go into a bank account and deposit exposure to pay for your mortgage, okay? If you are genuinely on YouTube and you want to turn this into a career, then you need to make sure the algorithm is favoring you and not the person who is reacting to your content and uploading it entirely on theirs. Because if you look at it from a long-term perspective, you might get that viral video, but the whole idea of making YouTube your career is to make a viral video and then another viral video and another viral video. The more you do this, the more your channel is recommended to numerous people and the more you become part of that upper echelon that's initially reacting to you. So again, remember that going forward, especially if you're a small-time YouTube creator. That said though, I'm going to end it on this note because I find this whole general practice of turning into React Andes and basically turning entire channels, into this really lazy practice on the internet. Because it is lazy. It's very easy to fire up a stream, react to like 10 videos, and all of a sudden you have 10 days of content to upload. Or in certain cases, 10 videos for that day to upload, all en masse, and all that are going to absolutely dominate the algorithm because you have an established fan base anyways. That said though, I'm sure this is a polarizing topic to a few people, and at the end of the day, I'm going to leave it where it's at because I've got some real content to work on, and we all can't sit down and react to a video every once in a while. So that being said, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. Check out a GTA video tomorrow. And if you're a smaller YouTuber that relies on a certain view count to hit a sponsor target, or you need ad revenue because this is your daily form of revenue, somebody just steals your content and uploads it entirely, YouTube does have built-in features that literally let you claim videos based on how much percentage of a video is copied. If they steal 100% of your video, you should probably be entitled to a little bit of ad revenue. If you want to use those systems in YouTube, feel free to. And if you feel like that's going to step on some toes of people that might not look too favorably on you reclaiming a little bit of your content, rights back to you, then fuck them, all right? Because at the end of the day, all right, you're the one that worked hard. Don't be abused on the system. Don't be taken advantage of. Simple as that.